The movie begins with the introduction of a nation that is divided into two parts, the West and the East. The West is ruled by the Queen, and the East consists of various nations. The nations were struck by a plague called the Devil's Curse. It's rather strikingly similar to zombification, but once the process is through, the infected will have met their end and reached their maker. In simpler terms, the curse is a mummification. In a bid to unify the nations, the Queen sent her intelligence agency, called the Queen's Watchdog, a well-known and fearsome group, to go into the East and do her bidding. The story begins with news of more mummifications across the city, but the source is still unknown. Suddenly, we see a group of girls treated like livestock, flogged and caged in wooden animal enclosures. The questions where she got those pictures from. She simply replies that most people who were mummified came into contact with him. For a second, she looks like someone who could wipe out this and his men with ease. But then comes the men from the depths of hell, her butler. Along the lines of slitting 10 to 15 men's throats, he declares he is a demon and a butler of the Genpo family. With an aura the size of Batman's, he fights like a master ninja, with nothing but a table knife sharper than a samurai's katana. He banters with his master like a younger sibling who's overpowered and wants some respect before he saves the day. All soldiers are down, leaving only the tracker, who is holding his master captive. Shocked by the sight of one man sending all his men to their ancestors, picks up the girl and points a gun to her head, making the butler put down his weapon, and immediately sends a bullet through him. Rips off her eye patch and notices she has a blue-colored right eye. Sees this as an opportunity to make more money, but I don't think he's going to make it out of here alive. Despite his questions, she speaks to the deceased butler, asking how long he's going to play his demise. The jests about the situation, but the joke is quickly flushed down the toilet as the butler, who we just saw take a bullet to the head, rises from the underworld like Constantine, who could go to hell for a vacation. The more shocked than I am, stands there in derision as they both banter over his playfulness in rescuing her. He takes a few bullets like Superman and steps forward, gets the gist and points the gun at the girl, who remains unfazed. She only banters with her butler, who tells her to ask politely. She looks apologetic for a second, raises her head like a hungry tigress, and tells her butler that her words are nothing short of an order. Within a split second, points the gun at her and pulls the trigger. Where the bullet went, we do not know. Begs for his life and offers to pay the butler 5 times whatever the Genpo family is paying him. The girl asks for information about the envelope she saw him handing over to a man in the picture. In the absence of his willingness to speak, the butler sends a bullet through his head. She takes off her wig, or he takes off his wig. Is the master a man or a woman? I'm lost. They march out in an epic scene with fire in the background and decide that dinner is going to be sweets. The next morning, the butler walks us through the morning routine of the noble Genpo family since the 1800s. A maid, Rin, takes the morning tea meant for the boss across the hallway, shivering like she's walking through the icelands. The house steward, Tanaka, is sipping his cup of lemonade. Finally, the boss, who jerked awake not too long ago, is Earl Kiyoharu Genpo, the chief of the East's most successful toy company at the age of 17. Earl preps for the day, discussing with her butler as if they've been bantering since the day she was born, and goes on to meet the Queen's secretary, Charles B. Satu, who commends her assassinations and intellect at her very tender age. But that's not all. He comes bearing bad news. The country's ambassador, Anthony Campbell, has also fallen into the hands of the devil's curse of mummification. Important personnel from the East and West have gathered to perform a large-scale exorcism. Earl scoffs and comments on their stupidity. The Queen demands her job be done as soon as possible, and Earl seeks not just to put a smile on the Queen's face, but to feel a sense of accomplishment. Her mission started the day the first mummified body was encountered, and ever since, she's been tracing the lines. The lines all lead to one point, the who suffered a tragic but befitting demise. His hands may be filthy, but he's not the one Earl is looking for. She wonders if her butler demon can mummify people. He gives a vague answer, saying he specializes in extracting souls from people. At the Ministry of State Security for Foreign Affairs, a certain Mr. Tokazawa excuses himself into his boss's office. He stands there for a moment, waiting for his boss to finish enveloping a letter and cracking a joke as dry as winter. He brings in a report about the mafia and his men, who were recently wiped out by the butler. His boss feels this should be a light job for the police, since they've got their hands and legs tied with the devil's curse. Mr. Tokazawa follows up with news of a man clad in a black swallowtail, assassinating 12 men, all by himself. This piques his boss's interest. Mr. Tokazawa pulls out a button from the scene that's crested with the Queen's intelligence agency symbol. There have been rumors that the Queen's watchdogs are pulling strings. His boss dismisses his motion for action, stating that his speculations are born out of mere rumors. Mr. Tokazawa steps out of his boss's office with a long, disappointed face. His boss tells him that the need and request he just brought never existed and were never heard of. But if he's going to put down the watchdog, He should do it without the pet owner knowing. With a grin from cheek to cheek, Mr. Tokuzawa leaves the office. At the toy company, Earl sits through a meeting. That's the least of her issues right now. Her aunt Hanai asks if Earl is okay and if she's found something new about the devil's curse. Hanai tells Earl to ask for help whenever she needs it. Mr. Tokuzawa finally does his homework, as they would say, and breaks to us news as bittersweet as lemon. Like the famous story of Bruce Wayne, she also lost her parents when she was just a child. She mysteriously disappeared and was nowhere to be found. 3 days later, a boy who claims to be the bastard son of the Genpo family shows up with the man clad in black. The family cannot be run by a female child, so Earl disappears and reappears later, posing as a young boy, and has since then been misleading the community into thinking she's a young man. This they don't know, just you and me. The Genpo Toy Company has been successful, and has had even more success under the rule of Earl. Earl reports back to Charles B. Satu, with news she dug out about the recent victim of the devil's curse. He was mummified while driving through the streets of the city. Satu wonders where she gets her information from, but the magician never reveals his secret. Satu urges her to finish up. He has great faith in her, according to him. He too knows her as a man. The butler pats the one he terms his only true companion, a cat. They take a small car and head to a meeting spot where the body of the mummified is being delivered. She arrives and pays to examine the body for just 5 minutes. Within those 5 minutes, a cut of cigar wrap is found on the corpse's teeth and a used handkerchief. The butler discerns that the corpse was dressed in such a classy suit, drank classy wine, and smoked the top boy's cigar, so he must have been at a gathering of the elites. She commands him to find out about this gathering. Later that night, he comes up with news about a party that is strictly by invitation and attended by the elite. For a brief second, she thinks she has harnessed her detective skills, but her demon butler is 3 steps ahead of her. He already arranges a list of the attendees, and since it's strict entry by invitation, they need to go there through someone they know. The butler encourages her to put a smile on her face, but she argues that since she lost her parents, she has lost the will to smile. She decides to cash in her aunt's Ask Me Anything You Need coupon. The next day, they sit over a meal with Earl and her aunt. Rin comes in with a jug of water. She's still shaking like a leaf. The butler jumps in and saves the day. Hanai understands the plan and is willing to do all that is necessary to help Earl in this revenge. After all, she was Earl's mother, and Hanai's sister too. Earl tries to fake a smile, and all the effort she puts into that smile only disfigures her pretty bossy face by the second. Hanai is all of a sudden under a medical attack, and her butler swoops in with the Hanai immediately takes the antidote and calms down. Rin swoops in to collect the cup but slips, sending Hanai's antidote flying and the cup of water spilling. Gladly, the black butler swoops in and saves the day. They immediately head off to a party, and when they arrive, Hanai hands over an invitation card. The seal on it draws back memories because it's the same seal of the people who assassinated her parents. She immediately asks for the organizers of the party and sends the black butler to investigate, leaving just her and Rin, who is disguised as the boss at this party. Earl is given the golden opportunity by the host of the party, Mr. Shinpei Kujo of Epsilon Pharmaceuticals. She proceeds to tail the host, instructing Rin to stay behind. Rin still follows her, and they both get busted, and in 1 second, they are both put down. The black butler, who is named Sebastian, is at Epsilon Pharmaceuticals company to check what's going on there. He comes across a room where girls are being used in the antidote process, with lines all over the girls to draw blood out of them. He comes across a book that has instructions on how to create the grand elixir. He opens a safe and finds 3 types of drugs in batches, a round fish oil-like, a red one, and a white one. He takes a sample of all 3 and keeps them in his pocket after swallowing one of each. The bad guys must have been waiting because a beeping bomb is there, and it explodes not long after. At the party, Rin and her master Earl have already been captured. They both witness Mr. Shinpei administer a new antidote to some people confined to a room. He calls their attention to the antidote and administers it. He calls the antidote necrosis, the yellow fish oil-like antidote that the butler found. The administration of the antidotes is through the evaporation of the antidote into the air. Mere sniffing starts the mummification process. The people in the room begin to bleed profusely. Mr. Shinpei informs the people in the room that if they want to survive, the antidote is the red, and they might have to take more than 1 pill of the antidote. While they all rush to take the another shocking reveal is made. Mr. Shinpei is not the final boss either, as he meets his end at the hands of a man wearing a robe and covering his face. Earl manages to set herself free with a shoe knife, like a kingsman. She picks up Rin, and they both step out of there, before they fall victim to an angry, nearly mummified mob. Earl immediately reports to Satu about her latest findings, and how she speculates the ambassador must have been butchered, and that Mr. Shinpei is not the final boss. Mr. Takazawa has got himself a few men and a warrant to interrogate the Genpo family. Sebastian goes with them for the interrogation. Mr. Takazawa leaves the black butler in a room with 3 men who he plans to use as interrogative tools on the butler, but per his master's order to behave befittingly, the black butler befittingly assassinates them and leaves the room. Earl, on the other hand, goes for more investigation, but encounters a cleanup in the process. Someone is wiping their slate clean by assassinating those who knew about them. Just like before at the party, Rin comes out of nowhere in the middle of Earl's stealth mission and blows her cover. Their guns point at them, and at some point, I thought Rin would pull an impossible fighting skill. Her glasses fall, and she becomes a whole different person. She gives Earl the chance to run away after explaining that her life's purpose is to serve the masters of the Genpo household. When her parents met their end, she felt helpless and wanted herself, until Earl came back and posed as a boy since she was a child. She determines that this is her chance to fight for her master, who never let her go, even though she was bad at cooking and serving. Who would have thought that a girl who could hardly hold a tray with cups and a spoon would be able to hold a gun and shoot straight? She clears but has one last man standing in front of her. She is saved by the black butler, who was ordered by his master to save her and come straight to the exorcism grounds, which she has deduced to be the next strike of the devil's curse. Hanai and her butler come just in time to help Earl. But wait, they're going in the wrong direction. To our greatest surprise, Hanai pulls out a gun crested with the bad guy's signature. She's been behind the whole thing. Let me explain. Earl is taken to a factory. Hanai plans to use a detonator to blow up about 100 pieces of necrosis. Anyone within a 100-mile radius would meet their end. Hanai's butler, let's call him the Silver Butler, hands a pill of necrosis to Earl, and Hanai immediately takes a picture, saying that once the blast is done, the next thing down the line is her picture holding the necrosis. Hanai mentions that she was the one at the party who butchered Mr. Shinpei. Earl tries to fight back but is easily overpowered by the duo, hitting her eye patch off. Hanai reminds Earl that she sent her butler, whom she claimed won't lift a finger unless he's told to the exorcism area, noting that he won't be here to save her. Earl thinks back on her parents' demises and affirms her strength for revenge and her reason for selling her soul to the devil. Earl is shot in her shoulder and holds on to her will while against the mouth of a gun. Hana shoots the bullet, but it goes missing for a few seconds. The black butler appears. I reckon he's been here the whole time and was just waiting for the perfect moment to dive in. Now we have a face-off between 2 masters, with one serving a man and the other a cold-blooded demon. The black butler reveals that on his expedition at Epsilon Pharmaceuticals, he saw books exported from all around the world about the elixir of life. He also came across 3 pills, remember? One red, one yellow, and the other white, which is the exact same pill she took when she was over at their place for dinner. The necrosis was only a byproduct of this lifelong antidote. The antidote was made from enzymes and hormones extracted from living young ladies. And here comes another shocking reveal. Hanai is not her aunt but her stepmother. She used to be the wife of her father, or in other words, the first wife of her father. As the head of the clan, he was to choose himself a wife. He chose her, but later along the line, an unfortunate incident took place that not only affected her, but also the child she was carrying. Without remorse, she was hoisted away, and a new bride was issued. Trash like Earl should never have been born into this world is exactly how Hanai feels, and makes no effort in keeping her thoughts to herself. Before one can blink both eyes simultaneously, another shocking piece of news drops as Hanai testifies that she is the one who assassinated Earl's parents. She lets the assassins into the house, goes on to have her beauty bath, and pretends like nothing happens. Earl, in her wrath, orders the black butler to butcher them. For the first time in an hour and a half, the black butler is stopped by someone, the Silver Butler. For a split second, I think he is also a demon. But he is, in very simple words, just a man who's been empowered by... One would call this a fight between good and evil, as silver and black clash together. The fight grows in intensity, as we all wait to see how it's going to end. The Silver Butler sends a twisting flying kick to the Black Butler, who takes it to the chest. One could say that the Black Butler is trying to understand the Silver's fighting style, while the Silver is just trying to end this quickly. The Silver Butler maintains his steeze as he pushes the Black Butler against the wall with his walking stick. He pulls a knife from the walking stick and strikes at the Black Butler, who swoops out of the way with a little scratch on his face. The Silver Butler boasts about his sword that is made out of pure silver, likening it to the popular saying that silver is one of the major tools to assassinate Dracula. Black, however, gets the best of Silver and is about to end him, but is told to back off by Hanai, who says she'll blow off the head of his master if he doesn't comply. Black lets the Silver toy with him a little, but not long after, Earl uses the opportunity of Hanai's distraction and fights back. Who would have thought that her great plan is to poison the 2 of them? She poisons both of them with the necrosis pill she has with her. Hanai, at first glance, has a straight look that fades into a dark grin. She normally takes the antidote to the necrosis pill with her, but bad luck has caught up to her today. She reaches out for the antidote and realizes that Earl has already taken them. Earl immediately disposes of the pills in her hands. Hanai, calls on her butler for the extra pills in his pocket, but those have also been swiped by the black butler. It's unfair. 2 pickpockets on one team. I dare say that the black butler has been playing mouse with the silver butler all along. The black butler baits the silver butler. The silver butler, feeling hopeless and aggravated, dashes towards the black butler, who just dodges his sword swing, stabbing him with his little kitchen knife after twisting him down to his knees. The black butler simply uses the silver butler's high-esteemed silver blade to pierce through the silver butler and lets him freefall his way to the bottom of a pit. The black butler simply steps down from the stage and goes straight to his master, ignoring all the words of pity flying out of the mouth of Hanai. He offers his master a pair of antidote pills, but she doesn't pay any attention to him. In the face of demise, Hanai rushes to Earl and pleads for her life. I'm pained that Hanai is not groveling at Earl's feet. Earl, in her anger, yells back at Hanai. Earl stands face to face with her thought-to-be enemy, but that balloon of Hanai being the main enemy deflates as a heated emotional conversation brings forth the truth. Hanai begs for her life, saying that she is not the boss they are looking for. There are bigger personnel she answers to. They pull the strings. That means Earl's job is yet to be finished. Earl pushes her to the floor and asks who the syndicate boss is. Hanai has no idea who has been sending her on dog errands. The black butler offers her the antidote a while ago, but she denies it because she thinks her job is done. However, the news of having a bigger boss to bring down changes her mind. She takes the pills the butler gave her and offers one to Hanai, but the foolish woman grabs both pills and takes them. She looks so apologetic as she is about to take the pill from Earl, but now that she has taken both, she laughs like an evil maniac. The black butler lets Hanai enjoy her laugh. Immediately, the necrosis kicks in even harder. The butler grins from ear to ear. He explains that the pills she just took, thinking they were antidotes, were actually necrosis pills laced with his blood. Her demise accelerates like the cars in Fast and Furious, and she falls right into the pit her silver butler fell into too. All that's left is the ticking time bomb. Earl finds her way to the bomb, and though she's having difficulties because of the poison, she still manages to amuse her black butler, who says he can't help her anymore, since she has decided to sacrifice herself for others, instead of saving herself. She tries to open the safe but can't get the password. She picks up the whole box and moves it to the roof. There, inspiration comes from heaven, and in one guess, she gets the password. She picks up the timer that has less than a minute to blow and throws it up into the sky. She uses her body to cover the necrosis pills, so further mistakes won't ensue. She lies there, and the black butler watches her fade away, as she thinks about him sticking around all this time to know if humans would change. He takes her home, and she is taken care of after that. A little while later, she wakes up and tells him that she is also human and can be selfish, but him, she orders to be forever loyal to her.